Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another community conversation where we are joined by a special guest who's going to be sharing some important messages with us today. And that is our dear brother, Arif Shahid, who's also known as Felonious Munk. Welcome.
Hey, hello. Salam, salam. Hey, good to be
Salam,
here.
salam. We are so glad to have you here with us, especially during this critical time that we're in. I just want to quickly read your bio, if that's okay, to let people know who we are honored to be joined by today. So, Arif Shahid, better known as Felonious Munk, is an actor, comedian, and advocate. He has performed as the Black Egghead on the late nightly show with Larry Wilmore, and he currently can be seen in a more dramatic role as Hassan on the hit ABC show For Life. He is also an ex-felon and was able to vote for the first time in this year's election. So can we just clap it up one time? So let's dive into that. What was that experience like for you, being able to vote for the first time? If you could walk us through that.
Yeah, I think because I did it here, in this particular election, because of the pandemic, it was a lot more early voting. And I don't know if I would have even considered early voting if it were not for this particular situation. So instead of waiting until November 3rd, my wife and I threw my son in the stroller. We didn't throw him because that's probably, you shouldn't do, that's abuse. We put our son in the stroller and we headed over to one of the wards because in Chicago, you can vote in any ward if you're voting early. So we just found the closest thing to us. We walked over. It took us maybe 10 minutes to walk over. It took us 30 minutes between getting in line and going all the way through the process. And we were done. It was a 45 minute, ordeal. But, for me, the weird part was I thought I would be like, this overwhelmed with emotion. And I think this situation is just way too critical for me to have even allowed it to be personal. This is about everybody else but me. And people talk about Hollywood and the elite, and I'm not one of the elite. I have a couple of dollars. I'm doing okay. But I realize that this election matters more to people who are even more vulnerable than me. People like, our parents and grandparents who had to come here under completely different circumstances. And now we might have cousins and uncles and aunts who can't come because this particular administration is so different. And our LGBT brothers and sisters listen, this election for the first time was not about, I don't like his policies or their policies. This particular person is harmful to the nation as a whole, and even the people who are siding with him are being harmed. And so this felt more like an obligation than it felt like a freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it certainly is an obligation. I can agree with you on that 100%. And you recently came out, to share some messages on social media that have really been spread far and wide. And one of the things that you had said in a recent post and a message was, saying, this is what you quote, Felonious Monk: former felons, please check your state's laws. Do not let anyone else tell you that felons can't vote, and just accept it as fact. I voted legally. I'm a felon. I did not have to go through any hoops. I applied online to have my rights reinstated. That's it. Check your state. Why did you feel the need to come out and share that message?
I was locked up a long time ago. Like I've been home forever. I look a lot younger than I am. I'm almost 50. And so I've been home for 20 plus years. And it never crossed my mind that I would be able to vote again. Right. So a friend of mine who happened to have been incarcerated in the same state I was posted about a year and some change ago, a year and a half ago, he posted on his Instagram that his rights had been reinstated. So I immediately DM'd him and said, hey, what was the process? What did you do to get that to happen? Because I knew our crimes were similar. And he, told me, hey, here's the website, here's the link. I clicked the link, I put my name in. 3 weeks later, literally, I had my right to vote. So it wasn't this arduous process. And I think, especially when you see people publicly post these things and people who have reached like I do, they'll go, oh, well, of course it happened for you because you're you. But, my name in the roles isn't Felonious Monk. They don't have any idea when I applied that I was anybody other than some ex-felon trying to get their right to vote back. But what I thought was interesting is during my research for trying to find out what I needed to do to get my own rights back, I found out that there were so many states that wasn't even the case, that you didn't have to do anything. And it's just common knowledge. It's accepted across the board that if you have a felony, you cannot vote. Doesn't matter what state you are. That sentence is just accepted as fact everywhere that I've ever been. What makes that crazy is there are two states in this country, Maine and Vermont, where you don't lose the right to vote at all. You never lose the right to vote, even if you're convicted of a felony. While you're in jail, you can vote. They don't take it from you. You get a mail-in ballot while you're in there, and you vote by proxy. There are 18 other states and the District of Columbia, so for a total of 19, that the second you walk out of jail or prison, you immediately get your right to vote back. You don't have to go and get it reinstated. You don't have to apply for anything. All you have to do is re-register. So that's 20 states plus the District of Columbia that you really don't lose your right to do anything. The second you walk out of prison in 19 of those states, you can vote again. Out of the rest of the states, the rest of the 30 states that are available, 21 of those states have a path for you to get your right back the second you're done with your probation or parole. So if you get out of jail, you finish your probation or parole, you are now free of all of your state ties, you can then apply and register to vote again. So it's only 9 states where you lose that right forever. And of those 9 states, some of them make it easier than others. For example, Virginia was the state that I was incarcerated in. It's one of those 9 states where you allegedly lose your right forever, but I got the right back. And literally all I did was apply. So, you know, I understand that the reasoning behind that is there's one party in particular that doesn't want people to vote. Their best path to victory is the least amount of people voting. This country is considerably more progressive than I think right-wing people believe. And it's a lot less progressive than progressives believe. But the Republicans would struggle to win elections if not for redlining, gerrymandering, and voter suppression. And because disproportionately Black and brown people are the ones incarcerated, you'll see why they don't want them to vote, because Black and brown people traditionally vote for Democrats. And so, you know, to make that go full circle, Maine and Vermont, 95+% white states, they never lose their vote. The states that have the strictest laws tend to be in the South or in the Southwest, where they have high Latino populations. South, high Black populations, Southwest, like Arizona, high Latino populations. And so, you know, it's voter suppression. We can call it whatever we want to, and it's a right, not a, you know, you're not guaranteed. Look, the point is, in most states, people don't lose the right, and in these very specific states, they do, and there's a reason for that. It all happened from Reconstruction on, had nothing to do with the crime bill, if I can clear that part up. I had my own issues with the crime bill. I was incarcerated during that time, but that's not why felons can't vote. So I just want to make sure everyone has the information. If you're a felon and you think you can't vote, please find out your state's laws. If you can, apply now. Some states allow you to apply or to register up until the day of. Some allow you to register in the line for voting. So if you live in one of those states and you find out you can vote, go vote. And if you are too late and you can't register now, don't throw this whole opportunity away. 2022 is coming up. The midterms matter. If you don't believe the midterms matter, we got 3 Supreme Court justices that were pushed through under this president because he had a Republican Senate. And so if all of that changes, right? If the midterms are different, if 2018 is different, if 2014 is different. And so, yeah, felons, remember who's strict on crime and doesn't do real rehabilitation and doesn't put resources in our communities that end up leading a lot of us to lives of crime. Remember who those people are. And if you get an opportunity to vote them out, vote them out.
Wow. Y'all listening to this? I hope you are, because I hope
you're doing this.
I'm taking all of this. Yes. Yes. Like
That's what I like at my comedy shows now. Don't laugh anymore. Just now, kidding. Just do this. My mind if I just looked out and I was telling jokes and everyone went.
With smile.
Wait, what happened?
I feel like
I lost you. Okay, there we go.
You good? Wow. Yeah. That, first of all, thank you for dropping so much knowledge on us. I mean, I think it's, and we see the Ethiopia shirt. Okay. Repping.
Got a torn rotated cuff. I would have really gave y'all a serious escape, but I don't want to.
You're not trying to throw it out yet. I'm surprised at your age. That definitely threw me off. So very hopeful for how I'll look.
We age well. We age well. So,
you know,
my routine is really just wash and moisturize. It's nothing extra. It's just
Wash and moisturize. See,
yeah.
y'all getting all kinds of tips today. Y'all didn't even know y'all was gonna
Yeah.
get.
Oh, fellas,
um,
please stop washing with the same soap on your body that you wash in your face. Way different texture skin. Wash with a good cleanser. Just clean it off. You're black, you're a man, you're lucky. You don't have to exfoliate as often. Your skin's a little tougher, a little stronger. But
mm,
please stop washing with Axe body spray on your face. You smell weird. Okay, that's number one.
mm,
And that's also why shy man can't grow beards, is because you won't take care of your skin. Clean your skin, exfoliate, get your pores open, and then hydrate. And I don't mean with Jergens or cocoa butter. That's not hydrating. That's for your elbows. Okay, that's for that. Something different.
hmm.
All right,
See,
and that's
y'all getting knowledge across the board today. Y'all didn't even know y'all were gonna get.
flex bombs, all flex bombs.
You've been so wonderful though. I mean, just listening to you, I'm like, you need to go on a campaign, just putting this information out because it's so important and we don't talk about this enough and we don't hear about this enough. And to your point, Black and brown communities are hit the hardest, and this is a form of voter suppression, trying to make sure that our votes are silenced when they shouldn't be, because as you mentioned, a lot of states, they have these opportunities for people to reapply and get their votes and everything, or you don't even have to, you don't lose it. So it's just, I appreciate you clearing that up for so many of us. And I hope that anybody who's watching this, if you have, a felony conviction or had one or know somebody that has or have one, please, please, please share this with them so they can make sure to get this information. And so, as we wrap up, I know you've talked a little bit about 2010 and 2011, that experience. And I don't know everything about it. I just have read a couple things here and there, but I would love to just kind of hear how that changed your life, especially to anyone who's watching who might be in a similar position, what you learned from that and what you could share with anyone watching.
Yeah. The first, I'll start with the premise that it's never too late, ever. Right? Like and I know, especially from our families where you come, where if you're a woman and you're 25 and you graduated, why aren't you married and having kids? If you're a guy and you graduated, why aren't you already an engineer or a doctor? And if you haven't done it by 30 years old, throw the whole person out. I should send you back home. I didn't come all the way over here for you to be this. Right?
So true.
But in 2010, I was pulled over ostensibly because the tint on the windows of the car I was in were too dark. It wasn't my car, but I was driving. It was supposed to be a quick errand. It was like, the day after New Year's, I hadn't seen some friends and I was running to the store. Police officer pulls me over. The tint's too dark. And during a search of the vehicle, they find a gun underneath the passenger seat. So I'm already a felon. I can't have a gun. But I also know how the system works. Like, it's literally my word against the officers. The officer said that he saw the gun. It was in plain sight. So I saw the gun, right? So I'm telling him, no, I've never seen this gun. I don't even know that you didn't plant the gun, but that doesn't fly, right? You can't go into court. I've never seen those drugs before in my life.
Right.
So, I spent most of 2010 from January 2nd through December 18th, assuming I was going back to prison and assuming that I was going to go for 5 years, because in Virginia, it's a mandatory 5. There's no negotiation. You don't get to, you've been a nice person for this many years. So I'm, during 2010, it was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of trying to figure out who I was. I was very reckless, which a lot of people, it's almost like, my life is over, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I was up and down the East Coast, just spending money and living as recklessly as I could. And a friend of mine just pulled me to the side one day and he says, dude, every time you go off on these rants, I know you're halfway serious, but it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. You should try stand up. And I was like, yeah, I don't like people laughing at me. I slap people. This ain't what they want, fam. I got real aggressive for no reason. And then I went to see him do stand up. That was December 12th. I watched him do stand up. December 19th, I came back to the open mic and signed up. And the second I stepped on stage, and I know not everyone is super faithful, but I'm Muslim. And the second I stepped on stage, I remember thinking, Allah doesn't want me to go back to prison. This is what he wants me to do. This is it. I'm not going back. I don't know how I know that nothing has changed. My case is still what my case is. I'm still who I am. I'm still a felon. But I know for a fact that this thing that I'm doing is my salvation. I'm not going back. And in February of January, I was supposed to go to court. So I kind of just hopped on stage, like, I'm going to just say this stuff. And then next month I'm going to prison. So I'll just, bucket list type of thing. But January, they pushed my case back until February. Between December, when I started doing stand-up, and February, when I actually went to court, I did a few shows. I started doing a YouTube channel called Stop It B, where I would just go on rants about whatever, sync people, sync models and young dudes with pretty boy swag. It's kind of like Uncle Monk is the aggressive old dude, because I'm 38 years old at this point. So I'm like, pretty boy swag, what so I'm playing the don't get out of my yard card. And then I went to court. And, there are things that you can control. And I always say, control everything that you can control, set yourself up for the most success possible, and accept when it doesn't come that way. But then there are things that you have no control over whatsoever. And I had no control over the judge. I had no control over the prosecutor. I just remember there was a point during my case where the judge looked at me and smiled and just kind of shook his head at the prosecutor. And it wasn't anything special that I had done. Just the prosecutor had asked me a bunch of questions and I kept answering them immediately. And I feel like he looked at me and went, you know what? Today's not his day. It's not his day to go back to prison. And so he literally dismissed my charge. I ran out of the courtroom. I didn't wait to hear what else he had to say. My lawyer, I remember my lawyer going, just go. I'll take care of everything else. I ran out of the courtroom, and it was almost like I had to do comedy. I remember thinking, while I was outside of the courtroom, still in the courthouse, in that waiting area by the pews, the little brown benches, I could still feel like they're smooth, but you're scared to rub your hand on it because you're going to get a splinter. Like, that's what this feels like. This is the place where everything is supposed to work, but you just don't trust it. But the second I walked out of that courthouse, I remember like bowing down and going, I'm going to do comedy the right way. I'm going to be funny. I'm going to say something with my comedy. And I would rather make sure that I stick to these principles than to be the biggest comedian in the world. And I still want to be the biggest comedian in the world, but only if I can do it this way. And I've accepted however those consequences come. And since then, it's been, I've been super spoiled with comedy. Within the first year, 11 months in, I was already, videos were going viral. I was on TV doing news commentary, like funny social commentary. I worked in the news for 5 years straight. So I always had a paycheck that was, within entertainment, that allowed me to live a regular life and still do stand up at night. I've never had a situation in comedy where, people were like, oh, you live out your car. I haven't really had that situation. I've been blessed from the day that I decided this is what I was going to do. So, when I think back to 2010, there's a little time period between October and February of 2011 where everything changed. If you had told me in the middle of October that I was not going to prison, I would have laughed at you. I'm definitely going to prison. I'm a felon, and there was a gun. By the time February come, I knew I wasn't. I walked into court, there's still a little residual fear, but the reality was I walked in with a confidence that I should not have had. And it worked out the way that God told me it was going to work out in that particular moment, in those quiet moments where you're listening and people are like, I heard God's voice. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't hear sound. I just had a sense of calm that this was going to be okay. And it was okay. And everything that's happened since then, stand up has been fine. Everything's going well. I've done theaters. I opened for No Name in Chicago in front of 1,100 people. And it was that feeling like, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I auditioned for this role on For Life after getting turned down for every role I had auditioned for 3 consecutive years. It didn't matter whether I went audition in person, self-tapes, didn't matter. I had gotten turned down for every audition. I just kept reading for them because they kept sending them to me. And then I got this role as a Muslim inmate who helps other inmates get their lives together. And I went, oh, I know him. I don't even have to like research the character. I just think about what I've been through. And so, again, this is one of those things where that wasn't within my control. I didn't get to pick which roles I auditioned for. They just sent them. This one happened to come to me. And so, again, I want people to realize that I'm still very close to the guy who committed the crimes that I committed that got me locked up. People talk about these big changes and rehabilitation. I wasn't a horrible person, and most of the people who are in prison are not horrible people. They're good people who may have done a bad thing. Most of them are. And if you don't believe that, think about how many bad people you know who have never committed a crime. You know, morality is this weird thing where you're like, oh, he's bad, so he went to jail, or he went to jail, so he's bad. This person's never been to jail, so they're good. That's not how that works. And so I spent the last 10 years being as loud about who I am and what I am as possible, so people start to blur those lines a little more. Like, hey, he seems nice, but I also believe he'll cut me, because I will. I will cut you. I will cut you in broad daylight in front of people. I don't
Good
care.
to know.
Just be very careful around my family. I don't want to. All right, that was too much. I'm sorry, Hannah. You did.
No, it's not.
You didn't deserve that.
I didn't take it personally. I'm thinking you're talking to the other people who, you know what I
was
mean?
not talking about you.
Yeah.
None of my Atlanta or DC people. Y'all good.
Because listen, I got that side in me too. So, you know,
all of us do. Like, we all come from, like, that's one of the weird things is people are like, oh, they ran from these other, because people didn't run. People were protecting their kids. For the all of our fathers and grandfathers they were with it.
I mean, they had to have something to come all the way over here the way they did.
To come over here to a place where and to build the communities that have been built in this country. You know, again, I pointed out DC and Atlanta very specifically. Those are two places that I can go and never feel it almost doesn't feel like I'm anywhere else but surrounded by people that look like me or sound like me or eat like me or smell like me. Or, you know, my son thinks that you're supposed to smell like garlic. He doesn't, you know, he's homeschooled, so he didn't get the, you smell like onions.
He didn't get that. You know, we all got that.
Now, I will say this. I did, maybe 2 weeks ago, I said something to him that I promised I would never say. He asked for 5 guys. He said he wanted the fries, and I said, we have shiro at home. And as soon as I said it, I went.
You sound just like all of our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents.
I felt bad. I felt a little.
You inherited it.
Yeah,
you inherited it.
I looked, and he looked at me like,
sell out.
I don't even want that. I thought you was different. Thought you were progressive, Dad.
Yeah, what happened to that, Dad? But seriously, hearing your story, I learned a lot. Definitely didn't know so much of that. And you talking about how your faith as a Muslim man played a huge role in your transformation. I mean, and like you said, you're not that much different. You know, it's just seeing how comedy almost became your salvation. That when you said that, I felt that in my bones. Like, and it's so inspiring, you know, for anybody who might be watching this, who's going through something similar. I do believe we're going to have that moment. You know, it may not be comedy, it may not be journalism, it may not be, you know, sports or being a lawyer. It's going to be something, right? Something is going to happen where we feel that and we know that, okay, this is where I'm going to switch gears and change here. And so thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being such a strong voice, whether it's on the screen or whether it's in actuality, because you do both. You literally are who you are in real life. You know, you're doing that in real life. So
trying.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for that. And you know, to this point, we really want to encourage everyone, if you're out there, you know, check out restoreyourvote.org. It's a great resource that can help you understand what your state's rules are. And that, again, is for people who have felony convictions. You can visit that and it'll help break down your rules and help you see how you can restore your votes if you need to. And so, Brother Arif, do you have any final message today you would like to share before we close out?
Yeah, I just want to say that this is an age where celebrity is going away, and I think that's a good thing. The people who have inspired me are people who I see every day, who are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They're people who stand outside with a sign by themselves, and they don't care if anyone else shows up. They don't care if anyone else is paying attention. They're going to raise their voice like you. I remember watching you after coming off of COVID. I remember you healing from COVID.
Thanks.
And then watching you go out and have one woman protest that gradually became bigger, and thinking to myself, the faith that you have to believe in what you believe in so fiercely that you don't need a cosign, you don't need anyone else to support what you're saying. You're willing to stand out there all by yourself. And that is the type of conviction we have to have in ourselves and our own beliefs. You have to be willing to stand out there by yourself with your sign, yelling into the void if necessary until somebody listens. And so please Don't wait for someone else to get you started. If there's an organization you want to join it. But if there isn't one that's close to you, start it. And if it starts with just you, let it just be you. And if you need further inspiration, she's right here. Watch her, watch what she does. She's out there advocating for us. She walked away from, and look, I've been in journalism rooms and newsrooms, hated it. But to know someone who cares enough about journalism to say, I don't like the way this is happening, but I still think our stories need to be told. So I'm going to create the infrastructure to tell it. That's a hero to me. That's what inspires me. And so when you asked, by the way, that's why I'm here. It was as much because you've inspired me as it is because I wanted to get this message out. And I think when you say, there's this calling, that's been yours, and everyone is going to have that moment where there's this thing. Their salvation is going to be other people's salvation. Do you understand? What's saving you, if you don't block it, if you share it, then it is going to save other people. And so please find your thing, embrace your thing, love your parents, but understand that they are talking to you from a place where they came here from fear and they're afraid that you'll starve. Don't be afraid to starve. Be who you are. You're going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. I feel like I just got a motivational speech I needed personally. So thank you for that. It's well received. I appreciate your words, your kindness, and your leadership and all that you do. So thank you so much, brother. Again, we are honored to have you here with us today. And I'm just excited to stay in touch. I'm excited to continue seeing how we grow and everything like that. To everyone who's tuning in, please make sure you follow our dear brother. You can find him across all social media platforms at felonious_monk. And I'll have his information in the caption as well. But stay connected. Check out, watch out for Hassan on ABC, because y'all hear this man. he's the real deal. He's the truth. So thank you so much again to everyone tuning in. We appreciate y'all. We want to send y'all peace, love, and positive vibes. Stay safe, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Ciao.